All right. Well, thank you. I'd like to call the Wednesday, December 9th meeting of the MACOG Policy Board to order. And James, we already did roll call. Is that good enough what you already did?
Yes, we've already noted attendance, so that's fine.
Okay, great. All right, so that takes us to our minutes of October 14th. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes? Motion to approve?
Phil Jenkins, motion to approve.
Second. Susie Wyrick, sorry.
We have a motion, a second. Motion was by Jenkins, second was by Wyrick to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And our minutes are approved. Got some reports today, and first is the chairman's report. We need to do a selection of our nominating committee for the calendar year of 2021. Done this a couple times with James, and it's actually a fairly easy process, but we do need to pick that committee today. I believe since all the positions are progressive, I believe it's just one position we actually picked. Is that correct, James?
That's what we're anticipating. The only reason we would be adding any additional officers is if there was a vacancy because someone didn't either want to serve in a position, or for an example in the past that's happened, an elected official has completed their term and won't be serving next year. We're only anticipating the need to fill one position as Councilman Wiggins rolls off of the officers.
And James, is it normally 3? Is that correct?
Yeah, so we would be looking for 3 folks to volunteer. It's not a very, as Mayor Stutzman mentioned, not a very difficult volunteer kind of opportunity. I will help you through that process as we look to add or create a slate of officers that we would recommend during the January meeting. It's a pretty straightforward process, and I will help guide you through that. You do not have to organize any candidate debates or anything along those lines. It is pretty low intensive kind of opportunity to volunteer. So we usually ask for about 3 folks, or if there's more interest, obviously we'll welcome more. But we would be looking for 3 volunteers who would be interested in helping us create that slate of officers that would be recommended at the January meeting.
Thank you, James. Is anyone willing to volunteer for this positions? I'd be happy to serve, James. And,
I'll help you.
Okay,
I'll help
Susie.
you, Mayor Dave.
And Mayor Dave. All right. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm Dr. Deb Fleming. I can help too, some way.
All right, that sounds great. So I had on my list Stutzman, Wood, Fleming, and Susie. Commissioner Wyrick, did I hear you as well?
Yes.
Right. All right. It sounds like we do have a nominating committee there. So thank you all for your volunteership. I will be in contact with you between now and the January meeting just to walk through kind of the procedures and what we'd be looking at. So please be on the lookout for an email. We may have to have a phone call just as an FYI. So
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll move into the financial report, and Debbie, it's yours now.
Good morning, everyone. First, we're going to start out with a budget revision that I am proposing. Basically, we would like to move $40,000 from the equipment and furniture line item into maintenance and repair. And this is due to increased costs and maintenance, basically due to COVID-19, but we're spending money each week for deep cleaning of our buses and ADA vehicles, and also just providing like PPE equipment to bus riders or also the drivers of the buses. So if there aren't any questions, I would like to ask for your approval of the budget revision.
And just to add a little additional information to Debbie's point, We're listing this under maintenance, and that might at first seem odd. But Federal Transit Administration had not historically had a line item that handled, say, bus cleanings or mask purchases in the past. So back in March, they made the recommendation that those kind of activities be considered a line item that they had called preventative maintenance. And so that's why we're categorizing those expenditures as maintenance funds. Typically, maintenance for us would be more parts and engines and whatnot. But throughout this year, it has also included those cleanings and PPEs as well.
Thanks, James.
James, quick question. In other bigger cities, especially early on during the pandemic, there was major issues with the spread of the virus on public transportation. Do you know what it's been like here with our public transportation system? Have we just fared much better, or what?
I don't have good data on, say, infection rates or anything like that per public transit. I will say that both ourselves, Transpo, and really public transit throughout Northern Indiana, we have been trying to coordinate. We have weekly phone calls where we're talking about best practices and all of those things. I know from our front, just to give you an example of what we're doing, since March, we have on the trolley been doing rear door boarding. We stopped accepting fares, and we closed the front door of our vehicle to kind of decrease interactions with the drivers and passengers. Additionally, we purchased about 4,000 reusable masks that we then passed out to riders and provided to drivers as well. We are doing daily cleanings. Drivers have chemicals on boards to do cleanings throughout the day, as well as then Cintas doing weekly environmental decontamination cleanings on all of our vehicles. So these are just a few small examples. I probably have 4 or 5 other examples of the things that we are doing. And all of this is just to say that we're taking it very seriously and trying to ensure everyone's safety while also providing critical kind of transportation to everyday needs like dialysis or to the grocery store. Councilman Fish, I had also seen that you had a question. I didn't know. All right.
All right. If there is not any more questions, I'd like to ask for board approval.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion was by Fish and second by Wyrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And that passes. Thank you. Go to our secretary's report here.
Oh, I still have more.
Oh, you do? You do still have
Yep,
more.
yep, yep. I have a lot.
Things along. Sorry.
I have a lot today. That's okay. So we have to go over the financial reports for both September and October since we didn't have a meeting last month. So I will just briefly go over those together and then hopefully it's okay to approve them together. For September, our year-to-date expense was $1,345,088.16. Our cash balance at the end of September was $2,126,967.39. And our total disbursements for the month of September was $406,625.96. And then, or is there any questions over that? For October, we ended up at our fiscal year to date expense of $1,799,032.19. That's about 22% of our annual fiscal year budget. Our cash balance at the end of October was $2,230,325.78. And our total disbursements for the month of October was $519,841.88. Are there any questions about either one of those reports?
Question.
Yes, Dwight. Go ahead.
So are there any categories in the budget that might get lopsided, overdrawn, close to being depleted as we open up into next year, before fiscal year would end? Are we in any danger with extra COVID expenses? Are we looking at any category that might be a shortfall?
The only one I had been concerned with was the maintenance, just because we had those increased expenses with like weekly cleanings and the other equipment we had been buying for buses and things like that. I don't think at this time I see any other areas where we might fall short. Obviously things change, but at the time being, I don't see anything else right now. It's just really that maintenance line item that we were kind of watching.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? All right, then I'd like to ask for board approval of the September and October financial reports.
I'll make that motion.
Phil Jenkins, second.
Motion was by Fish and second by Jenkins. Are there any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And that passes. Thank you.
I have a question. Debbie, can I ask you a question about how much reimbursement from the COVID grants and stuff that you're getting? Is that appropriate?
Absolutely.
How much, do you know how much you're getting?
Yeah.
I mean, you've applied
Debbie, do you
for.
want to take that, or would you like me to answer?
You can go ahead if you want. I was just going to say about we have a few special grants that we've received since COVID hit and the CARES Act funding came out. So we have CARES funding for FTA, which is our transit system funding, and then we also got some EDA CARES funding as well.
Yeah, and just to provide some more specifics to that, so from Federal Transit Administration, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was north of about $5 million that was provided. That is 100% funding. For any of you who have dealt with FTA before, or just in looking at our past grants, operating funds, for example, from FTA are usually 50-50. So that's an extreme flexibility that they have provided to provide 100% funds. That's why we have chose since March to provide service without fares, because it protects drivers, limiting that kind of interaction. But also there is a limited need with the 100% funds to collect those fares at this point in time. So that will provide probably operating expenses for about 1 year if we look at the burn rate of that funding, coupled with then we have a series of capital improvements that we were wanting to do with some of those funds as well that we brought before the board in previous meetings. Because I think operating expenses wise, about $3 million would be operating expenses for the transit system. So we're using about $3 million for a little north of $3 million for operating and about $2 million for capital. The other kind of flexibility we were provided was from the state. The state provides us for transit what's called the Public Mass Transit Fund. We did not receive any additional allocation, but the state allowed us, typically that's also a dollar for dollar match when we use those funds. The state waived that matching requirement this last year, so that also provided some additional kind of flexibility. And then the other kind of grant that we received during this time frame was from the Economic Development Administration, or EDA. And since we have a relationship with them as an EDD, the Economic Development District, we received a non-competitive institutional capacity grant, is what they called it.
Good.
And it was for $400,000, which is to be spent over a 2-year period. Largely, they want to increase the capacity of the organization. So we are bringing on one staff member, as previously discussed. Brett will actually be starting next Monday. So we'll be onboarding Brett next Monday. It's a 2-year period. We're also, one of the things that we are looking to utilize those funds on is as encouraged by EDA, is a disaster recovery and economic resiliency kind of study. It's a much smaller scope, probably about $80,000, but it is something that we are looking at and talking with economic development professionals in the region right now about what that scope would look like. So those are kind of all the CARES related specialized funding that we have, on top of just our normal funding as well.
Good. All right. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Debbie and James. We can move on to the Secretary's report. And I don't believe Mark's with us today, is he, James?
No, I did not, unless Mayor Sensor called in on the phone. I didn't see him listed. If he is on the phone, just *6 to unmute. But I can go ahead and take his report that he has filed with me. The first item is the October and November administrative modifications. This is a listing that should have been in your packet and is listed online. The administrative modifications are essentially small changes that the board has authorized staff to do between meetings that do not require board action. And we do provide a listing of all of those changes that we have made to the Transportation Improvement Program, and provide them to the board and the public. So you should have in your packet October and November. If you have any questions, feel free to ask staff. Additionally, in your packet was the calendar year 2021 meeting schedule. This is just a rough outline of what our meetings will look like for next year. As an FYI, we are not changing the dates. So we'll continue to look at holding it on the second Wednesday at 10 a.m. For the foreseeable future, as long as the governor allows, we will plan to offer virtual options. Although I'd love to see you all and have you all in one room, it's just really not advised at this point in time. So we'll continue to offer those virtual options. One note is that normally we would cancel a February meeting, as myself and 2 of our officers from the policy board, our chair and first vice chair, would typically accompany me to Washington, D.C. Around our February meeting. Again, not traveling, not anticipating to travel. That conference is virtual this year. So we are still planning to host a February meeting. Also, of course, all of these dates are subject to change based on kind of needs and matters of business. But hopefully that provides you a brief outline for calendar year 2021. That is the Secretary's report for today.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. And move on to old business here. James again.
We have no old business today, only new business.
All
and
right,
Ryan will be presenting our new business.
Hi, good morning. Hope you all are doing well. First thing I wanted to note today is that due to not having a November meeting, the resolutions aren't actually in order. There are some all the resolutions have been endorsed by TTAC though. So we'll start with resolution 4020. This is a locally initiated project in the Fort Wayne district in the city of Napanee. It is for increased funds and modifying the fiscal year for construction to 2023. This is on Woodview Drive. If there are any questions, I can answer those now. Otherwise, I'd ask for your approval on Resolution 4020.
Question,
Mayor Wood,
Mr. Fish.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, did I step on somebody there?
no, I was just going to make a motion to approve, but
Okay, I just want to have a question about the general term road rehabilitation. What exactly does that entail?
Well, a rehabilitation is a step above reconstruction. It is similar to reconstruction. It just depends on the base of the road. So the entire road may not need to be fully excavated and repaired. So this project will look to repair what surface and subsurfaces that need to be repaired, and if there are full depth reconstructions needed within the project, those will be addressed at the time of the construction.
Are there, we're going to do some infrastructure, plumbing at the same time, or is it not that extensive?
Dwight, if I
Go
can, Dwight, we had water and sewer is already in that. It's an old county road that we're converting into a city street. So it's a county road, so we don't have to reconstruct the entire road. There's some grade changes we need to address. We are addressing drainage with this, adding curbs and adding a pedestrian walkway along the south side all the way for that mile stretch.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Jenkins.
Mayor Wood, motion to approve.
I'll second that. Fish.
Motion by Wood and second by Fish. Any questions? We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? And that passes. And I think the rest of the votes today, I'll just ask if you're in favor, raise your hand, and then we'll do a vocal if you're against, just to speed it up a little bit. You can go on to the next resolution.
Sure thing. Yeah, Resolution 4320 is also a locally initiated project in the Fort Wayne District. MACOG recently closed our call for projects and have gone through the scoring process, which I'll touch on a little bit later in the meeting. But this is a project that was selected on Blackport Drive. It is a road reconstruction with the addition of multi-use trail / boardwalk from Monroe, where the fairgrounds are, to Lincoln Avenue. I'll move on if you don't have any questions. Okay, item B then for Resolution 4320 is also in Goshen. This is on College Avenue between 9th Street and US 33. It is the addition of a auxiliary lane or a center turn lane throughout the project and a multi-use path. This is also the addition of PE into the tip so we can get it programmed. As a note, MACOG during our last call had funded College Avenue just to the east of this, so this might be considered phase 2 of their project. So for Resolution 4320, I'd ask if there's any questions. If none, I'd ask for your approval.
Phil Jenkins, motion to approve.
Mayor Wood, second.
Motion by Jenkins, and Wood has the second. These are two projects we're really excited to get going in Goshen, so appreciate MACOG's support. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you. Go on to the next one.
All right, Resolution 41-20 is in the Port District. This is a project that went to TTAC in November. It is on State Road 10 from Juniper Road to State Road 19. This is a hot mix asphalt overlay for the distance of the project and is including both PE and construction into the tip. Item B under Resolution 4120 is on US 6. It's from the east junction of State Road 106 to Shawnee Drive on the west side of Napanee. It is also an HMA overlay, adding both preliminary engineering and construction into the TIP. If there are no questions regarding Resolution 4120, I'd ask for your approval.
So moved.
Second. Second, Deb Fleming.
Motion by Wyrick and second by Fleming. Any questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you.
Okay, moving into Resolution 4220. This is a locally initiated project in the LaPorte District. It is in the city of Mishawaka. We had MACOG has selected this project during our last call. It is an expansion of the Cedar Street Bridge to connect into the Mishawaka Riverwalk to give better access throughout that that park area. And during this call, they had requested additional funds for that project. And MACOG has opted to add additional funds to it. So this is an increase in federal funding for construction year 2024. If there are any questions, I can take those now. Otherwise, I'd ask for your approval.
Phil Jenkins, motion to approve.
I second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And opposed, vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you.
All right. Resolution 44 and 45 are related to performance measures. So for those not familiar, under MAP 21, which is the Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century Act, the guiding legislation for transportation a few years ago, established performance-based planning, and then the FAST Act, the current legislation, the Fixing American Surface Transportation Assets, that kind of reaffirmed and reestablished performance measures and performance-based plannings. Since then, Federal Highway and USDOT have promulgated rules on what that looks like. And so we have various performance measures that we are required to do as part of the federal transportation process. The first one is the safety target performance measures. This is an annual measure that we have been doing since 2018. I believe at least since 2018. So every year we've come before this board and asked to establish performance measures for safety. Now, what we have here before us are statewide numbers because as MACOG, we work with INDOT and our other kind of statewide partners and other MPOs to determine whether we should support the state target or establish our own kind of performance measures for our own region. Collectively, the MPOs have tended to decide to support the statewide target. And so the statewide target that we have collaboratively worked on, creating a 5-year rolling average for 2021, are the numbers before you. So number of fatalities on the statewide system at 817, rate of fatalities per 100 million at 1.006, number of serious injuries at 3,311, rate of serious injuries at 4.008, and number of non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries at 393.6. Just to give you progress on the 2018 target that INDOT had set, they did achieve that target. It does look like they will achieve other targets that they have established on safety And then just to give you an idea of where we're at from a trend perspective, the 2019 target, which is just one that I pulled up, for example, the number of fatalities that we were setting the target at for 2019 was at 889. So you're seeing the number of fatalities at this point trend downward. And the number of serious injuries was at 3,501. So all of these numbers, except the only number that necessarily hasn't changed, it's actually very much the same, is the number of non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries. It's target-wise the exact same as 2019. So these are items that we are working on with the state. It is MACOG's recommendation to support the state target. And so I can answer any questions about this resolution, but that kind of covers resolution 44-20.
Question here, Dwight.
Yeah, Councilman.
So I support the state numbers, and I think we should support it. But do we have any indication that those numbers being down somewhat, is it COVID related with less highway miles? Because of the traffic studies we've done around here in Elkhart City, early on in the COVID, we had a lot less traffic on a lot of our main roads. And can we attribute the shutdown or the slowdown to the lower numbers?
So actually, there's some really interesting data around that, and I can't say that I've studied it in depth for Indiana, but just from a national perspective, while volumes of traffic were down at some points nearly 50% compared to where they were the previous year, what we did actually see across the country is that fatalities and serious injuries, at times, their numbers went up. And the reason for that is while less people were traveling, the people who were traveling may have been exceeding speed limits or driving unnecessarily erratic because they felt like there were less people on the roads or a number of those different things. And so actually a number of fatality and serious injury numbers across the country did tick up because of people driving at excessive speeds and those kind of elements. So there could be some attributable items to COVID. However, I do think some of the number of fatality data, if you look at it across the 5-year rolling average, it is trending downward just because of things like continual improvement, like cable barriers or all sorts of different other improvements, as well as then just vehicle safety improvements as well. So to answer your question, I don't have a perfect answer, but I know across the country there were a number of stats that did tick up on fatalities and serious injuries, kind of COVID related, because people were driving at excess speeds.
Thank you, James.
Yep. So if there are no other questions related to this performance measure, we are asking for your approval to support the state target for 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Phil Jenkins, second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you. Go on to the next one.
All right, so the next one is a little bit more complicated. I'll hope to explain it in a pretty accessible way. But so the previous target, which was safety, is an annual target. It is really one of the only targets that is an annual target. The rest of the targets are typically a 4-year performance measure target. And then after the first 2 years, there's the ability to revise those targets based on trends. So the next item is really addressing a performance target that's already been adopted, and after the first 2 years, a revision is being needed. So the next target is related to pavement and bridge condition and interstate freight reliability. So this is, again, a 4-year target. The horizon for that target is 2021. What we're looking at here is the targets are related to the percent of interstate pavement in good condition and the percent of non-interstate NHS pavements. NHS is the National Highway System, just as a reference there, in good condition. And then similar information for bridges. So a percent of National Highway System bridges, the deck area that's classified as good versus the deck area that's classified as poor. And then interstate freight reliability, the truck travel time reliability index is what we're looking at addressing. So to help explain this, pavement and bridge, the state had its definition of good, fair, and poor. They were required to put this. They had been tracking good, fair, poor for a while under state standards, but when these performance measures came out, this was the first go around for pavement and bridge. This was their first attempt at meeting the federal performance measure. When they were adopting those measures, there was either lack of clarity or misunderstanding of what the federal definition of good was. And so the state more or less classified things based on the state definition of good and not the federal definition of good. So they now have a better understanding of what USDOT and Federal Highway are expecting under the term good. And so you're seeing that there's a revision of the percent of interstate pavement in good condition. We were targeting 84%, but we're now targeting 50% being in a good condition. This is not that the state DOT has decided to let roads go. Okay, this is not that they have decreased their want and desire to have roads in good conditions. This is just a game of semantics related to the definition of good and how the state classified it versus how the feds classified it. It's a misunderstanding of the definition, the federal definition of good. And so it's not as if road conditions are deteriorating at an unexpected pace or anything like that. It's basically how roads were lumped into bins, and the state did not handle it in the way that the feds wanted to see it. So instead of waiting for 2021 to come along and to say, yep, we got it wrong, and then there are penalties that occur, the state is taking its appropriate 2-year time to revise those targets and adjusting them. And that's what you're seeing kind of across the board in Resolution 45-20. I can answer any questions to that. The bridge performance measure is a lot more of a minor set of tweaks, whereas pavement is a major set of tweaks, and it has to do to that lumping of good and fair and poor. So I can try to answer any questions. Hopefully I've explained that pretty well, but can handle those questions now. And if there are no questions, then I'd be, again, MACOG is recommending that we would be supporting the revised 4-year performance measure targets. And that's what we would be asking for your approval of today.
If there are no questions, is there a motion?
Mayor Wood, motion to approve.
Mayor Rod, second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. That passes. Thank you.
Okay, kind of in the same vein, MACOG is what's called, we provide public transit services in Elkhart and Goshen through the interurban trolley, and we oversee that service. Much like Federal Highway had performance measures, Federal Transit Administration also had performance measures. And one of those that was already handled was kind of related to assets, and that is something that we're already tracking, and it's related to age of vehicles and all of those things. But the next one is related to public transportation safety. And so we have our public transportation safety plan. And I don't know if Tiara or Jeremiah are on the line and wanted to provide any additional detail related to this before I provide any more comments.
Yeah, I'm here, Jane. So yeah, just wanted to give like a little bit of background more on the actual plan. So it's FTA required this plan for own subrecipients of 5307 funds and recipients of 5307 funds, as well as rail system operators who are subject to the FTA State Safety Oversight Program. And so again, within these plans that FTA is requiring, there are 4 components that we have to include or are required to include, which deal with safety management systems. So there's safety management policy, there's safety risk management, safety assurance, and then safety promotion. And as a chief safety officer, which that is myself, it's my job to ensure that all of those components are in compliance every year with our vendor, our contracted vendor, which is Royal Heritage, who operates the interurban trolley fixed route in the ADA service.
Yeah, so to Tira's kind of point, essentially we have established the trolley's public transportation safety plan, and we are asking for, this was sent out to the board in advance of the meeting. We're asking for the board to adopt this as our public transportation safety plan.
This is Phil Jenkins. Thanks for all the work you guys have done on this. I make a motion to approve.
I concur with Phil, and I will second the motion. This is Susie Wyrick.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, please signify or vote yes by raising your hand. And if you're opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you.
The next item, typically we would do this in person, and we would say thank you and all of those things. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we're not able to do that. But for those who aren't familiar, John Leatherman was not seeking re-election this year. So Councilman Leatherman will be stepping off the board. This would have been his last meeting. Unfortunately, he could not attend virtually. But we wanted to say thanks to John. If you don't know, John has been on this board for 32 years, I believe. He has been a champion of the region and been an advocate for MACOG, and has worked tirelessly on things like US 31. And I just want to be able to thank him and recognize him for his service. We would have had a nice plaque to share with him and provide to him, and we'll get this to him. But wanted to be able to thank him for his years of service to the organization, to Elkhart County, and the region. So really, that's all that we had prepared today. We would have maybe had a hug and a ceremony for the plaque, but unfortunately can't do that today. So wanted to be able to say thanks for his service to the organization and the region as a whole.
Thank you, James. And I'd echo those sentiments and encourage anybody to send John an email over the next couple days since we couldn't get together today. Let's see, move into staff updates now.
as I mentioned earlier during the Transportation Improvement Program resolutions, MACOG has recently finished our call for project in the scoring and have selected projects. We are in the process of drafting award letters, and we'll be in contact with the communities that had applied very soon. So again, that's our 2022-2027 call for projects is just wrapped up, and we had quite a few good projects this year. It was there were some difficult selections, but all in all, I think the improvements that will be made are going to serve the communities very well. My second staff update is in regards to the NDOT roll call that is for projects in fiscal year 2026. This open call closes on Friday, December 11th at 5 p.m. We have 6 projects that are being applied for in all four counties. So looking forward to continuing to help finalize the current applications that have not been submitted to NDOT, and then move forward into helping those communities present to NDOT as they do annually.
Yeah, 2 quick things right before I handle this one. First, Ryan didn't mention, I just want to thank Ryan and all the transportation staff for their assistance, not only on the MACOG call and the rural call, but one of the announcements yesterday was for community crossings. I don't remember the total number of communities. I think it might have been 16 communities from our region, 17 communities, even better, from our region that were selected for community crossings grants totaling about $5 million. This was a community crossings round that we all thought for a few minutes, based on COVID, might not happen just because of where revenues had trended. So we were able to secure about $5 million out of that call as a region. And I know that's a lot of asset management plans and grant applications that Ryan and the folks in transportation were working on. So wanted to thank them for that. So this is the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, OCRA, has a Community Connections grant. This is a new grant, kind of COVID related. This is a Community Connections for people with disabilities. The whole purpose of this is that COVID has impacted all of us in various ways, especially from the social perspective. It's adversely, obviously affected a lot of us, but disproportionately may affect those with disabilities. And to avoid social isolation and a number of other different things, OCRA has created a Community Connections grant, which looks at local governments partnering with nonprofits that serve disabilities to try and provide meaningful ways to have connections with people with disabilities so they can get out in the community in the time of COVID. That grant application is January 10th. We wanted to make you aware of it. It's a very new program and a very different program from what you may have seen, but it's probably a very needed program in many communities. So we wanted to make you aware of it. Another update that is not on the list that I just want to thank another staff member for. Leah Thill has been working tirelessly on a number of different sustainability items, but one of the projects that just received some successful funding that you may see in a MACOG Gazette is for electric vehicle charging stations. Our region worked on a joint application for 11 level 2 electric vehicle charging stations that were throughout many communities, many of your communities. So thank you for being a part of that application. But she kind of championed that and put everything together and worked a lot of late nights to get that grant submitted. And we were successful in receiving funding for all 11 stations. That's charging stations from Culver to Elkhart to Mishawaka and South Bend and everywhere in between. So there's 11 stations. So wanted to be able to thank concur for that, and you'll be able to read more about that in a MACOG Gazette. So then the next staff update, I believe, is for Elena. So I'll turn it over to her.
Good morning, this is Elena. I have a quick reminder about the Recreational Trails Program. They are doing a grant cycle for the 2021 year, and those are due on March 1st. It's a grant with a reward from $50,000 to $200,000, and it can fund trail projects and trail amenities, and it also can include funding for land acquisition. It's 80% funding, so there is a match involved. But if you're interested in applying, or if you'd like more information or any assistance, please feel free to reach out to me and I would be happy to help. And my next staff update is on the Indiana-Michigan River Valley Trail signage. We hosted our trail consultants 2 weeks ago now, Thanksgiving week. We completed a site visit in the portion of the trail that falls in St. Joseph counties that was from State Line Road to Douglas Road. And we analyzed each of the crossings just to see the type of signage that would be necessary there to best guide the trail users and also to best alert cars of the fact that there is a trail crossing. This is kind of a pilot project from the wayfinding and signage project that we completed back in 2018. And it is with thanks for funding from the Visit South Bend, Mishawaka. And so we're excited to see this move forward and to start seeing some more of these signs in the ground.
As James had mentioned earlier, and I appreciate that, James, MACOG helps out with a number of technical resource assistance, and one of our more developed program is to help out with asset management within communities. It is something that I've worked on for years now in order to establish a region-wide network of roads in which I can maintain connectivity with your GIS departments and your street superintendents in order to maintain an accurate and up-to-date database of the road system within our region. And so basically what we do with asset management, it's a three-pronged process that Indiana LTAP requires. It's a program out of Purdue. And then the state requires a certificate from them in order to apply for community crossings. So this was instituted in 2016 by the state. And basically what it includes is a full asset inventory of every road segment within your community, a road rating based on the what's called the PASER system. It's a rating system from 1 through 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And MACOG will go through and drive the roads with a staff member from your community. And kind of at the same time, we rate the roads. We teach the process in how the roads are rated. Beyond that, we develop an asset management plan and a 5-year, and through the coordination with the community, develop a 5-year road asset plan that would be included in this asset management plan. So all in all, we helped out 10 communities this year, a few new ones down in Kosciuszko County. We helped out Sydney and Claypool and Warsaw this year. Were 3 new ones that were able to complete. So let me see if that. Okay. So yeah, that's asset management plan. Does anybody have any questions in regard to that? Okay. Quarterly tracking for projects that are within the TIP is coming up, and that will be on January 6th. This is where all of your employees in responsible charge, the project managers basically will come into the office, and we'll was actually virtual this year, and we'll have a powwow on how the project's going in order to determine whether or not if things are on track, how MACOG can help if they're not. And NDOT is also there in the meeting.
Just the staff update section is always to let you know about different ways that you can utilize MACOG kind of as a service. Ryan talked about if you're not utilizing us for asset management, just know that there are various ways that we can help, from just setting things up to what Ryan didn't mention is driving thousands of miles of roads and giving them the 1 to 10 scores. But one of the other items that we have been working on, really interesting and exciting project, is in Kosciuszko County. We've worked with the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation and kind of the local government jurisdictions within Kosciuszko County. The Community Foundation received a Eli Lilly Gift 7 grant to do a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan. Their comp plan is rather dated at this point, and they know that in Kosciuszko County and wanting to get it updated. And there are a lot of communities there that do not necessarily have their own independent comp plan. So we are assisting them with administering that process and that for them. We helped develop their request for proposals and had that out. We received 7 proposals from nationally recognized firms with really great proposals. The team, the evaluation committee scored those. We interviewed 3. We have a final consultant that we have identified and are working to engage. And so that's just another area. You've heard us talk about working directly on comprehensive plans or park plans. That's just another area that our organization tries to assist local governments. And this is a kind of an exciting one. It's for not only the county, but also 9 local kind of towns in Kosciuszko County. So it's a very exciting process. So that's kind of the update there. That does conclude all of the staff updates that we have prepared for today. So if there are any questions about that, the only other thing I wanted to touch on is you may have questions of what we're doing right now during COVID from a staff perspective. You'll notice that I'm in the office, but most everyone else is remote right now. Since November 13th, we have made the recommendation to staff that the office does remain open. However, if you are able to work from home, that you should consider working from home. And so there are a few people who are in the office every day, but the majority of folks are working from home right now. It's our guidance to them to continue to do that through January 3rd. So back from August, September, October, that kind of time frame, we were pretty much 90% in the office. But since November 13th, we're probably 90% virtual. However, you can get a hold of all of our staff via phone, email, all of those normal ways. If you call their direct line, it will typically, if they're not in the office, transfer to them. So we are fully accessible, just somewhat physically distanced right now. So that's really all the updates that I have from a staff perspective.
Thank you, James. And as always, we appreciate all the work you and your teams put into our communities. That brings us to the privilege of the floor. Is there anybody that wished to bring something to the board that was not on the agenda?
This is Mayor Dave. I just want to say a quick thank you to NDOT. As James mentioned, community crossings grants came out yesterday. Kind of unexpected. We didn't know if we were going to see anything this year, but I'm certain most of our communities are taking advantage of that. Sounds like they are, but if you're not, I would highly encourage your community to do that. It's been a very good program for the city of Mishawaka, and just want to thank NDOT again and MACOG for their help.
Hey, James, aren't we in Elkhart using community crossing for the Higley Avenue overpass?
So the Highway Avenue Overpass is a different grant program. It's the Local Tracks program, which was a one-time competitive program for grade separations. Our region really benefited from that because we saw 3 projects. Overwhelming majority of the funds for that program, I would say, kind of came to our region and specifically Elkhart County with the Hively Overpass and then the Sunnyside Overpass. So that was a really successful program. I don't recall the specific areas that Elkhart was working on for their community crossings, but I know that they received some community crossing funds in this recent call. Ryan, I don't know if you have additional details, but I know that the city is utilizing that.
Yeah, no, I've heard. I thought. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that I've worked with Danielle Garlington on and I believe his name is Ryan to get Ryan Klossman to get them onboarded. They were both relatively new to the grant process via state and federal. So I couldn't tell you exactly what roads they applied for community crossing.
No, that was Goshen Avenue, Jackson.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
That's what it was. Yep. Got it.
But.
All right. Are there any other questions for staff or any other items of privilege of the floor?
All right.
I was just going to say, seeing nothing moving, I would say motion to adjourn.
Yeah, and from the public comment perspective, due to COVID, we asked that the public submit comments ahead of time via email, and we have not received any, so there are no items for public comment.
I have that other second, Susie's.
All right. We got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And whatever.
Aye.
Hey,
Happy
thank you all.
holidays,
We'll see you
everyone.
later.
Happy holidays to
Happy
you
holidays.
all. Thank you. Have a great end of the year.